Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to episode 17 of Joe and Matty Talk New York Sports. It's been a couple weeks, but we're back on track and ready to get going for what are hopefully some good seasons from the Knicks and Rangers. Doesn't look too good for
Well,
another team that we'll talk about later, and one that played yesterday.
we need Madison Square Garden to be fun this year because our other teams are a stink fest, and
hmm
I could honestly say, in my lifetime, the only time I remember feeling this bad about the Giants was when Ray Hanley was the coach. I know that's before you're born, but that was a debacle. So,
hmm
well, I think we'll talk about the Yankees. That was another disaster that set me and Maddie off for about a week before we got caught up with schoolwork and real life work. And so we're going to do a special episode on the Yankee season and what was going forward. At another time, we're going to start off with a little Ranger and Nick talk, and then we'll talk disaster. And hopefully, we'll get through this one without too many technical difficulties. Maddie, let's talk with the Rangers. They are 1-2. First game, total disaster, but things look a little better. The youth, it's disappointing. Capo Caco's already hurt, out at least a week. But the fact is that he's supposed to be back for a week. Not going to panic too much at all. Krastov, who was their ninth draft pick a few years ago, did, sounds like he's being a big total baby. I haven't met him. I don't know anything about the what personally they've discussed. Sounds like he's being baby by not going to Hartford. All
hmm
other players need to go to the minors and earn it. This is not a school piddly like traveling team. This is the professionals. But I heard he's back in Russia, and they're trying to work out a trade. The Rangers apparently asking for a top six forward, and if I'm the Rangers, I'm not budging on that. Give me your thoughts on the Rangers.
Uh, I think starting off 1-1-1, I think they've actually been okay. I actually think they've been good besides the Washington game. They're putting on a lot of pressure. I'm still, even though Kako's hurt early, he's my big guy this year. I'm expecting a lot from because Lafreniere showed me that he's a little farther in the process than Kako, and as he should be, is number one overall. So I'm like, really excited about Lafreniere because he looks like he can stick with Zibanejad and Kreider. I'm a little worried with Kako because I'm going to put a little more pressure on him to have a good year. But other than that, I mean, the game in Washington you throw away. You took too
Let's
many
forget that
penalties.
never happened.
Yeah, you took too many. It was kind of a little wacky.
Sammy Blay, who I actually thought, one of the calls against him was bad, but
Yeah,
he was giving them what they needed. He was going into the corners and drilling guys, and the Rangers have been much more physical this year. That is obvious.
they're a much different team, and I think they're a harder team to face. I think the big thing for them this year is get off on one of those big like streaks early because you go back to the last 2 years, even counting last year. They had those like mid-season runs that got them up. People were like, okay, now they can make the playoffs, and they did that in 2019, and they rode it right into the COVID pause. But I think the big thing this year is get off to one of those like 5, 6 game winning streaks early. Like if you can get that, create some separation early and kind of build a buffer instead of fighting like being at 500 till like the midpoint in the year before you turn it on. I think that's where they need to show they're different. I think they're going to have a really good year. Their power play needs to finish, but it's also just 3 games in. They've
Yeah,
had a
it's a
lot of
little it's
opportunities.
a little early to judge a new coach and a new system, so we'll
But
see.
I'm very hopeful that they'll make the playoffs this year. They're going to be good teams, but the Rangers are going to be one of them. They
They
played
better
really
make
good.
the playoffs.
Yeah, they. I think there's big expectation that they do, and I think losing that Stars game hurt a little bit, but it showed you how good the Rangers can be on the forecheck, and I think Dallas snuck the victory like that because whatever happens in overtime, 3-on-3s, garbage, whatever like
Well,
that you
I
can't
like
take.
the Rangers' chances in overtime, so I think more
Yeah.
times than not, that's plays to the Rangers' advantage when you see guys like Panarin and Fox and
Oh
Zibanejad just
yeah.
move the puck around, and people can't get it off their stick one on one. It's
Yeah, and
incredible.
it's good to see early Kreider scoring couple goals. Now he's got 3 in 3 games. That's good to see because there was a lot of
That's good
doubts,
for you
include
because that's
yeah,
good for
there was
you
a lot
because
of
that's your
doubts coming.
boy.
There's a lot of doubts coming from me about the contract, But if he can have a good year, put up 30 goals, I won't have doubts anymore about that contract. And if
Speaking of
Zibanejad can
contracts, what about Zibanejad's contract? The local press here was happy with the contract in the fact that they thought he could have got 10 million a year. 8 years is a lot of time, but I'm pretty psyched to have him locked up as a Ranger for a while. I think he's a better player than Eichel, and I wouldn't count the Rangers out on Eichel though. If
Buffalo would
they
have to pay
eat
some of it.
salary, and I think the Buffalo ownership is just backed in a corner where they're just being stubborn now, and it's going to end up costing them more and more. So we'll see what they say.
Well, yeah, and I mean the Rangers, they could stay healthy. They look good. Blay was better than I thought he would have been.
I agree. He was a
played
pleasant
really well in the
surprise.
preseason too. And I I I knew who he was, but I didn't think this is what we were gonna. I thought we were gonna see gritty, but not offensive chances. But now we're seeing that, and I'm impressed by that. But they just look Fox, Panarin, Zibanejad, Kreider, Lafreniere. They're top.
They got talent. Yeah, if
And
Shesterkin could play well in net, and they could keep scoring goals, I think it's going to be a good
I
season.
think Shesterkin needs to be playing almost every game that's not a back-to-back because it's clear that he is the far superior goalie
I
to
think they're
Georgiev. And
scared he's a little fragile, though.
well, the team also, if you notice though, from like the last 2 or 3 years, when Shesterkin's been in net versus Georgiev and Lundqvist, the team played differently. Like the team played with more edge, and
It's a good thing to know. You play with confidence.
and that was like kind of like when, well, I don't remember Lundqvist in the early days, but I don't know if that was the case, but I saw that a lot last year and late in 2020 or at the beginning of that the beginning of that calendar year at the end of the season before the pause. They when Shesterkin was in net and when they went on that big streak, it was mainly because he was playing and they had the hot hand and he was, I don't know, maybe
That's
like
like
not
going
uniting
behind
the
your
team.
best starting pitcher. People tend to be much more relaxed when you know you have someone who's going to make the big play behind you. Not that Georgiev was bad last year, but
It's just
there's definitely
he's
a
not
difference.
as good. Yeah, he is definitely not. I feel like with Georgiev, he can make a really good save, but too often than not, I've seen a lot of soft goals from him. That's his use.
And
He gives
soft
up
goals
those.
are morale killers. It's like a turnover.
Yeah, it, and he can make great saves like Shesterkin. But the difference is Shesterkin most of the time those goals he gives up are ones you can't really stop. You look at all three of the goals he's given up this or four. In the Dallas game, okay, they had the backhander, but you heard Lundqvist say that a backhand shot is much different for a goalie to read, and it's harder to read. And then he had that power play one that was just poked out in front off Fox's stick, and just he couldn't really do anything because the guy put a good move. And the overtime, well, that's just a kind of like a shootout goal. And then
Yeah.
the one in Montreal, absolutely nothing he can do. There's just absolutely you can't do anything really unless you make an incredible save there. So he doesn't give up soft goals. Like, and I hope to
What's
see
your
him in
thoughts on
tonight.
the Toronto game?
I
Toronto's a
think
good team.
you got to pick up points. I think you got to early in the season just picking up points should be like you want to get the win, but you don't want to get like you look at the Rangers the last couple years, they have gotten in like a hole early. They did in 1920, they did in 1819. They got in a hole early and just avoid that. Kind of leave the first 10 games, two
Yeah,
or three
I
games
think it's
above
going to be tough
500.
with a new coach and a new opportunity to get off to the quick start. But he was
But
coach of
this
the year,
team,
so let's hope. He had a
but
bunch of new people
yeah.
with a new franchise when he was with Vegas, and it worked out. So let's
But
hope.
this team though, they have what has made me so excited is they finally made the moves to become an experienced team. They add a guy like Blay, who's now
They added a lot of
who
talent.
yeah, he's won a Stanley Cup. Then you
Yeah,
add
that's why I
Reeves.
didn't finish. Yeah,
Reeves has
guys who
been
have won the cup.
Reeves has been in a Stanley Cup final.
Yep.
Kreider's been in a Stanley Cup final. Nemeth has been in the playoffs, I'm pretty sure, with
Barkley,
Colorado a
Goodrow.
couple times. Barkley Goodrow's won 2 cups. So they have experience and they have an experienced coach. So like that was always my doubts with David Quinn was he wasn't experienced. He was new to the game, so
But
he was learning.
they brought him specifically to teach young kids, and that's what he came over from college to do that. And
Yeah.
I don't know how much credit of what the team is now will go to him, but let's hope they turn the corner.
Yeah, I have
Let's
high
move on
hopes.
quickly before we get into the Giants. Knicks finished preseason undefeated. Pretty impressive. I think the thing that you see that is different almost across all sports now is they took the preseasons very serious. They played starters.
Mhm.
They played them in the
Yeah.
fourth quarter. They played the win. Tom Thibodeau. I don't care when it is. And I heard someone say this, and I want to say it was probably Boomer and Geo, but the Ravens are a team that have been a successful franchise for years, and I hate the Ravens, but I do respect the head coach because no matter what they're doing, you're out. You have guys out. It's preseason. You play like you're trying to win. Whenever you try to sugarcoat stuff, I know you want to get people exposure. I know you don't want to get injuries.
Yeah.
4 games, I think injuries is going to be the biggest thing about the next season is can they stay healthy? They have a lot of older and fragile guys between Wall, Rose, their center. There's guys who could potentially have a big injury and derail a good chunk of the
They do
season,
have a
but
lot
they
of
are.
depth though.
You
Sure.
beat me to it. I was going to say what they did do is they have a really deep team to survive. If an injury is a week or two, and not like
So
a blown
now
out.
you can give more time to guys like Quickly, who's probably not going to get that much time unless there's an injury.
Well,
But
yeah,
yeah,
he'll
I
get his
agree.
time, but you'll be able to pick spots in games and play different guys, and on back to backs, you'll have fresh people for the veterans. And I think Tom Thibodeau is perfect for a deep lineup to manage this and make it go through the season and still trying to win. The over under for them is 41.5, which means they think they're going to be an under 500 team, which is pretty disappointing for me. Um, I know
I do not
they
agree with
got
that.
better. The teams in their division also got significantly better. The Nets, who knows what's going to go on with the Nets because Kyrie Irving may miss the entire season for all we know. That's going to be a volatile situation no matter what happens. But regardless of what anyone says, I am looking forward to the Knicks because I know that they're going to be a product that they go out, they play hard every night, and they will, no matter who the opponent is, have a shot to win.
When's the last time you've ever said that in your life? That you're excited to watch the Knicks play this season and they have a chance to make
It
the
had to be
playoffs?
when Latrell Sprewell was playing, and I was a big Latrell Sprewell fan. But
Yeah, that's
it's
over
been
10
way
years.
too long. It's been
Yeah.
it's probably longer than that. I don't know. Google. I don't know when he played, but you know, it's been too long since you had a team
Yeah.
like that.
Mhm.
Now let's go to the team that throughout my life was always reliable, and now has turned into a huge dumpster fire, the Giants. And I don't even know where to start with this. The last game was such a disappointment. Like the way it rolled, the Giants were up 3-0. They had a chance to go up 10-0, and within a flash, they were down 14-3. Daniel Jones had a terrible game. However, when you
No.
look at the way the evolution of the injuries went, first drive, Tony's in there, 3 catches. They look great. Crowd's energetic. They look like a completely different Thomas. Andrew Thomas is in. He's getting some time to actually throw the ball. Shepard's in. Like things looked okay for like the first quarter. Like, all right, this team they're competing against a much better team. And then that Andrew Thomas goes out, and the offensive line, I've never seen a worse performance where just guys were just running straight at the quarterback, or the running back's getting the handoff. He's being tackled. Like getting the handoff done was a problem. Jones, it went back to his bad habits of, when he was young and you had no time and he would just hold the ball too long. And these guys were getting killed. The offensive line couldn't do anything right the rest of the game. Coming off a concussion, they should have taken Jones out in the second half and not let him take a beating instead of throw some 50 plus times. I'm just so discouraged. There's no depth on the Giants because obviously, look, they have more injuries than any team I think I've ever rooted for in my life. They lost their center. They have lost a guard. They lost their left tackle. There were a star Hall of Fame running back. Apparently, he's gone. Their number one free agent signing out with a knee injury. Their other running wide receiver is out. Tony, their number one pick, goes down and is out. The defense is, well, how is it better players with the exception of Alvin Tomlinson? How's it they worse? They got should have been better in the second. Bradbury looks awful compared to last year. He's getting burned left and right. Nobody could tackle. Like, at any point, did you feel like the Giants could stop the Rams? The only way the Rams could stop themselves was like, holding penalty, or Stafford trips and threw it over his head. But other than that, they were just running all over the field. It was like the only hope for defense was luck. It was terrible.
Yeah, I don't know where to go from here, because what's upsetting is I watched Boomer and Gio today, and the Giants and the Jets.
Well, speaking of Gio, contribute to the Boomer and Gio Foundation, or the Boomer Esiason Foundation for Cystic Fibrosis. Go ahead.
Both the Giants and the Jets, who play for.
Well,
I always get this wrong.
Let's not loop the Jets in, because the Jets are a lifelong dumpster fire, and it breaks my heart that we're in the same sentence as the Jets. And I know that's reality. I mean, right now the Giants are in the same conversation with the Jaguars, the Jets. What are the other toilet bowls around the league? Like, this was conversations for the Browns, the Lions. Yeah, it's pathetic.
The problem is, you look, and since 2017, and they are in the conversation with the Jets, they have the worst winning percentage at home. They have one of the top 4 worst records in the NFL since 2017. And what it is just, you look at these franchises like the Giants and the Jets. I always get this wrong, but I'm pretty sure New York is the biggest city in the country. I'm pretty sure. I don't know, but they bring in a lot of money, and they suck. Like, these teams are embarrassing. Like, and they are.
It's horrific. Like,
it is. The Giants are They are losing me, and they are losing the fan base. Because when I first got into my 4 New York sports, the Giants were at the top. That was the first I started with. I loved
Giants
football.
have always been my number one, but this is new level of loserdom. It is hard to watch. I mean, I sat there yesterday for my birthday and had multiple people over. We ordered all this food. We're having such a great time. We have the Bears game on one TV, the Giants game on the other TV. By halftime, I was like, turn the game off. I have never turned a game off. Like, and that just doesn't happen. I always am a silly fan who's like, all right, there's still a comeback. You knew they were dead in the water. In the third quarter, I was like, only thing I could hope for is the Rams just hand the ball off every time, so the clock runs out before they score 70 points.
It's embarrassing, and I don't know.
Management 100%. Like, I am not giving up on Joe Judge yet. I do not give up on Daniel Jones as much as they killed these guys in the media today. I'm super giving up on Dave Gettleman. I give up on him too, because before that,
I'm done with Garrett and Graham. Patrick Graham and Jason Garrett.
I'm not done with Patrick Graham yet. Last year, he was the coach of the year. So something is going on that we don't know. He can't go from being a Picasso of defense last year to horrible. I think the Giants have no depth. They have zero pass rush, which we all knew going into the draft. Need to get pass rush. They got Ojulari, but it hasn't made. He's got a couple sacks, but it hasn't made.
It hasn't made that big of an exactly. And the Giants, I don't know where you're
fearing anybody on the front 7 of the Giants. What's his name had a good game yesterday. He had big sacks. Leonard Williams in the beginning, but
he's been invisible all year.
I know,
that was his first game.
And there's only one guy to be worried about. The offensive line double team him. There's zero fear from anybody else. There's no depth on this roster. Gettleman has done a horrible job of team building. And then you look at before him, you had this Shermer who I couldn't stand from the day he walked in the door.
The Giants, Mara Tisch, and Gettleman. I mean, Gettleman has put this team in such a hole that some people don't even know. And it all started with drafting Barkley. And I have nothing against the guy, but you cannot sit here and tell me, well, the Giants have one of the best running backs in the league. He's always hurt. When are we going to use that talent? I'm sick of him.
Even if he was a
It's
great
a
running
mistake.
back, he can't run when the guy's getting tackled in the back.
And you don't draft you said it a couple episodes ago, you don't draft a running back there. And they passed up a lot of talent. Then it goes to rolling the dice with Jones at the 6th overall, and it hasn't worked out yet. And then I mean it's just and now the Odell trade is unraveling. The Odell trade is unraveling because one, O'Shea Jimenez is terrible. I have no clue who that.
So is Odell Beckham. What did he do yet? He's got like 5 catches on the season, and he's hurt again.
But there was a difference.
Odell's doing nothing positive.
But there was a difference with the Giants that I'm seeing, and this is why Tony's my favorite player, because the Giants are boring to watch. When Tony punches that guy, whoa, you woke me up. Like I wasn't even watching.
I totally disagree with. I don't condone people punching and getting penalties and ejected. That's a moronic move. He knows that's a bad move. That's why I apologize. When you tell me you throw the guy the ball and he's making a move before he even catches it, that's what excites me about Tony. When it's like 3rd and 5 and they throw a 4-yard pass.
But he's showing passion. The Giants look dead. Jones, they look dead. It's disgusting to watch.
It's because the offensive line, which when Gettleman came on board, he told us the first thing I'm going to do is fix the hog mollies and fix the offensive line is the worst I've ever seen. These guys are getting destroyed.
But he didn't do it.
Yeah. So even if we had Barkley and any other running back, if they would have drafted the All-Pro who ends up at the Colts, or if they would have drafted any other of these offensive line instead of Barkley, maybe Jones would have had a better chance to start. Maybe whoever you got as a running back could have been better because they're not getting killed the moment they touch the ball. It is pathetic.
It's also my issue with the coaching staff, and I like Joe Judge's mentality. I do agree with you with that. But I remember texting you a couple weeks ago, and I heard the announcers say they're like, Joe Judge is a big process over results guy, and I just put my head down. I was like, but the Giants have been through this for 5 years.
Yeah, but
we're done with the process, though.
Yeah,
we want results.
You are a fan.
Like this is not New York football.
Yeah, but
like this is not New York football. Embarrassing. You have the 10-year anniversary.
You can't make the process argument and talk about Joe Judge, who's in his 2nd year after a pandemic. If you had the same coach for 5 years, then you can make the argument. But he's just here. He's got to put his system in place. He comes from Bill Belichick, who you know is going to give you.
But
nothing.
I'm tired of with Joe Judge. I think he has a good mentality. I'm tired of the post game quotes every week because it's stupid.
I agree, but what are you going to say? We got our ass kicked.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. And the problem is, like, I look at it.
I have no talent on the field right now. My starting 4 wide receivers
That's true.
Evan Ingram is horrible and should be traded immediately because he never contributes positively to the Giants in his entire year. Everyone gets excited. He either drops the ball, fumbles the ball, or does nothing exciting. He should be traded at the deadline. We just saw Zach Ertz get traded. Yeah. If you could get 5th-round pick and another player for Ingram, goodbye. Get rid of him.
What they have to do now is they need a change because it's clear that the Giants have to do some point, but they're going to have to do some form.
They're going to fire Gettleman is what they're going to do.
They're going to have to do some form of a redo. And I think that starts – you fire Gettleman the next 2 weeks and you start trading away valuable pieces because you have to change it.
Do you trust whoever's going to make those deals for the future? Is there someone in-house that you feel confident? Because if you fire Gettleman, I agree. I don't want Gettleman making the trades. But you can't bring someone in and be like, make these trades. You don't know about the roster well enough. It takes some time. I mean, I don't know who Evan Ingram's the only guy I think anyone would really trade for, and you could get.
But why would they though? That's the problem. Like, why would you look at what he's done?
Because people think the Giants' offense. There's definitely someone out there who sees how fast he is and was like, oh, he's just victim of a bad offense or bad coaching or whatever. Someone will give him a chance. I don't know what you're going to get for him, but I've been told since the beginning of watching football that you win football on the lines, the offensive line and defensive line. And when you build football, that's where you start.
Giants don't have.
The Giants' offensive line is the worst I've ever seen.
They haven't had
Nate
a good
Solder
offensive
looks
line.
like me or you going against these guys. He's got his
They
hands
haven't
up his
they haven't had a good offensive line since they won the Super Bowl 10 years ago. And the
You're
problem is
100% right.
you look at
wasted Eli's years with a crap offensive line.
and that's what makes me sad is I look here and I'm like, you look at Brady and stuff, and I don't like Brady, but he's good. And I look at it, I'm like, the Giants really just murdered Eli's career, last part of his career. They literally pushed him out as fast as they could because they did not give him an offensive line or an offense after Cruz went down, besides Odell. And it pained me yesterday seeing them.
Free agent. It's just
Well, it pained me yesterday seeing that 10-year that the team walk out from 10 years ago to a maybe 60% crowd.
Yeah, because
they knew what they were walking onto, and they're walking on. It's like a field of shame. It's it's not fun watching the Giants. And what makes me annoyed is I was very excited for this year, and a lot led to it being a good year. We talked about them. Oh, they could make the playoffs. It was they should be above 500. They could be an 11-win team. It was supposed to be so hype. Giants fans were excited for the first time in a while, and you lost the first 3 to teams you could have easily beat, and it's just I don't know.
I don't know. Did you hear this? That they're going to go? Apparently, they're going to switch the turf out of Giant Stadium now.
I've heard that there could be
the room because all these just think all the other teams like the 49ers last year when they played the Giants Jets back to back and had everyone's knee blowout have complained about the field, and now what team has more injuries than the Giants?
It's literally your guys,
leg.
it's just. I mean, it was good to see Shepard back yesterday, but what are we gonna make the playoffs from here? I've lost it. This season's over. This season's over for me, unless the Giants lose 2 games for the rest of the year and win out. That's when I'll. If they lose 3 games, because there's 11. They go 8-3. That's how they get me back.
But they get Carolina, who is a game they could win, and you know what's going to happen. They're going to tease us and beat Carolina. No, they're going to tease us and look good against, and then they're going to go to Tampa, and they're going to go on. I forget who the other road team. I think to Kansas City, and get destroyed, and we're going to be miserable again. And it's so. I've never been so down.
We are owned, and it's just. I agree. It started for me. I've probably said this a couple of times on the podcast. It started with me watching the Giants, and that was the first team I'm big on. And they went from 1 to now 4. They're up top, and it's been a battle between the Rangers and the Yankees. And the Rangers have my heart right now, and the Yankees really disappointed. We'll talk about that in a different episode. And now the Knicks are starting to grasp my attention. And it's
there's nothing like MSG when people are pumped up. Like you saw that playoff game last year.
Yeah, they've lost. This fan base is. This is a good fan base. I heard this on Boomer and Geo today, talking about how the Giants are a very loyal fan base, 100%. And they're losing the fans. The fans are tired of it.
Matty, you know me. I'm now in my late 40s. I had the same energy and obsession as you. I remember walking home from school when Lawrence Taylor won the MVP and skipping home, being never more excited. I can't remember ever not watching a Giant game. I can't remember turning off a Giant game at halftime and or at least turning it off and not. I would always go turn it back on. Maybe I'd be mad. This week, I had no hope that they would do anything positive. There was no hope there. I was willing to watch any other game than that disaster. And But
it really goes to show though when they are winning, nothing's it's awesome when your football team's good. In 2016, I remember going up. They were great that year. I remember going up to your wedding. They had the Steelers that weekend in Heinz Field. They had won 8 straight games. They were 9-3, and I was like, holy cow, this is awesome. The Giants could win the Super Bowl. And I remember they lost that game. They went on to lose that game, but they went 11-5, and that was just one of the most. That was just that was one of the
Yes.
best seasons for me in sports, and it was devastating when they lost in the wild card. But from there on out,
Yeah.
what's
I mean,
sad is you look back now, the next year it was supposed to lead up into another chance for Eli to win the
it's been
Super
a
Bowl,
total
and
dumpster.
it went just like this and just straight down. And
Yeah.
I don't know
McAdoo,
what you do from here. I don't know what you do from
McAdoo,
here.
Pat Shermer, this is nightmare. So all I'm
But
saying to the
let me ask you
Giants
a last
is,
question though.
yeah,
But where do you go from here? That's my thing. I have no clue.
where do I go? If I'm the owner of the Giants, and I'm saying Mara because he tends to control more than Tish. Tish is more into the Hollywood aspect of this, from what I'm told. But what the hell do I know? And the
You
Maras
hear
are a
more
lovely
from Mara.
family and have let me sit in their seats and their box before. They're lovely, awesome people. I would look
Oh
in the
wow.
mirror and say, I have obviously done a bad job of hiring people. Pat Shermer, David Gettleman, they've always relied on their cronies. Ernie Accorsi put the other GM in place, Jerry Reese. Like, it's been all in the family. I think you got to go to someone who has been a successful franchise running and drafting and consistently good, and steal one of their people and be like, here's the keys. I am going to not interfere with you. You don't have to hire people that I
Save
know.
us.
Yeah, you are in charge, and you got to go out and get a big gun. Who that person is, looking around the league, I don't know. It's not in the NFC East. Um,
But like the funny thing is the Eagles and the football team are 2-4, but they feel just so much better than the Giants, even though it's only
you
one
feel like they
game.
could actually win a game. The Giants seem like they can't.
Exactly.
Like, I honestly feel like it looked like Alabama, and me and you have fought over this. Like, a college team could never compete with an NFL team. I feel like Alabama's offense could move the ball right down the field.
And you give a nice congrats. I love to see it. I loved it this weekend. Got to watch it when that on pop up. Trevor Lawrence beat Tua again, and it
Uh,
was hilarious. That was the best game Trevor's played all year. He did have a fumble, it wasn't his fault. But
I hate Urban Meyer, and I hate the Jaguars.
I do. Urban Meyer is setting that
I
team
can't
back
believe
so
he's
bad.
stuck on the Jaguars. That's the most disappointing.
I wish Trevor was here. Come, let's watch us grow. Who said that?
Well, he should
Gorton
have
or
been on the
someone?
Jets, but they blew
JD.
that.
Well,
Anyway, I don't know who the person is to save the Giants, but what I do know is, please
anyone,
don't hire
please.
someone inside the organization that you've been friends with for years, because we've been doing it wrong for a while. So
Yeah.
look at the franchises who have the biggest winning percentages over the last 5 years. Take the top 10 of them and start analyzing who their president and operations are, and be like, here you go. Look, I don't agree with firing a coach after 2 years unless they lose every
Yeah.
game the rest of this year. But if this person comes in and says, I want to fire everybody in the organization, you're going to have to step aside and say, okay, rebuild. I don't want to rebuild, but what I don't have
It
is
might
next
have to.
option.
But I'm gonna make one more quick note. If I could go personally and talk into the camera to these New York organizations, and we'll throw in Buffalo and we'll throw in the Devils. It has been 10 years since the last time the state of New York has had a championship team. That's embarrassing. There needs to be a change of the guard. The city needs to get back on top. I think the Knicks are going the right direction. The Bills are really good, and the Rangers are going the right
Bills are the best
direction.
shot we got right now.
Yeah,
We'll,
and
cheers to Mike Sands, and we'll have to jump on
yeah,
his bandwagon.
I'm telling you what, the Mets had a terrible season. The Yankees did not
Oh,
look good this year. The Jets and Giants are horrific. I'm
the
blanking on
Nets.
some other
The
teams.
Nets were the biggest
Nets
chance,
have
and
too much
that's
drama for
yeah.
the Nets are gonna blow it again. We need a wake up call. There needs to be a little rehab going on here, because this
You got to.
should not be this bad at sports right now.
Yeah, we need to get over ourselves. We spend all this money. Let's go hire someone who could fix this problem, and stop thinking we're geniuses and we know what we're doing, because it hasn't worked. With
All
that,
right.
till
Hopefully the
next time,
Rangers
Matty.
win tonight. All right,
I
we'll
feel
see you
good about
guys.
it. I feel a 3-2 win tonight.
Zibanejad's getting a hat trick. every night.
I don't care who scores. I'll take it. All right, Maddie.
All
I
right,
love you.
guys.
Have fun at work.
See ya.